definitely spoil the grandchildren. We go to the store. If I take one of the grandkids to the store, Austin in particular, Grandma, buy me a truck. He likes little four-wheeler trucks, right? He's got, I think, 100 of them. Buy me a truck. And so what do? I buy him a truck, right? Because, Kim, you take the kids, right? Buy me candy, right? Buy me. We do that because it's fun. We buy our children things. Sam is in the Bahamas right now. Exactly. Why is that? Because he wanted to go. And Mom and Dad are like, yeah, okay. Why do we spend money on things like other people? Well, because we love them and we want to give them good things. And so seeing our money in that context helps. Now, the United Methodist Church is interesting. There's a long history in Methodism of talking about money. John Wesley gave a sermon, and it was called On the Use of Money. All right? And John Wesley said some very interesting things about money. John Wesley said, gain all you can. Gain all you can. Turns out the Methodists were really hard-working people back when they started, and they listened to John Wesley, gain all you can without hurting your health, he said. You don't want to work so often, so much to hurt your health, so watch your back, Becky. Gain all you can, but without hurting your health. And then he said, gain all you can without hurting your mind. Sometimes, we spend so much time worrying about money that it affects our thinking and it hurts our mind. He said, gain all you can without hurting your neighbor. That one's a little trickier, right? Without hurting your neighbor. What does that mean? That you're not making money off somebody else, that you're not cheating somebody to make money. Gain all you can. But he said, gain all you can, that you should work hard. John Wesley thought that work was important. I'm going to quote him here. He says, use all possible diligence in your calling, whatever your calling happens to be. Lose no time. Never leave anything till tomorrow which you can do today. And do it as well as possible. Put your whole strength to the work. Let nothing be done by halves or in a slight and careless manner. Do everything you have to do better today than you did yesterday. Make the best of all that is in your hands. John Wesley thought when we worked at our jobs, whatever those were, that was part of our calling from God, and that we should work as hard as we can and make all the money that we could. There's nothing wrong with making money in the United Methodist Church. And then Wesley said, not only should you gain all you can, but you should save all you can. Shouldn't just spend it on frivolities and amassing all of this stuff. Save all the money you can so that you can take care of yourself, so that you can be self-supporting, so that you can be independent, so that you can take care of yourself in your old age. Save all you can. And then he said, give all you can. Now, in the church, there has, for many millennia, been a practice called tithing. People familiar with tithing? Tithing is a biblical practice, and it is the practice of giving 10% of your income to God. I am not standing here telling you that you must tithe. I'm not even telling you that you should tithe. Tithing, whatever you give to God, whether it's in the collection here, whether it's to charity or in some other worthy cause outside of here, whatever you give is between you and God. But it is between you and God. It's not just between you and somebody else. If God's not a part of that decision that you're making, you are leaving God out of something very important. Can you imagine being in that relationship with God, that you're close, and saying, God, I love you. God, I trust you. God, I want you to be part of my life, but stay out of my checkbook. All right? Now, imagine if I said that to Martin. Martin, I love you. Martin, I will do anything for you, but don't touch my money. Good relationships are not founded on that basis, let me just say. All right? And so, if we want to be in a good relationship with God, it's the same thing. We don't want to shut God out of that relationship. That relationship that we have with God should be big enough to include our finances. Now, I'm not saying that everybody should tithe. What you give should be a part of your religious walk, your path of discipleship that you are on with the Lord. That's what this Lent, that's what this sermon series is about. Our path of discipleship. How do we get closer to God? Part of that is in dealing with our money and our finances. I have said to the church very often, do we trust God or don't we? That we worry sometimes about the finances of the church. And rightly so. It's important for us to be good stewards of the money that is taken in. We shouldn't just spend money like there's no tomorrow, because it's not unlimited, is it, Becky? There's limited funds. And sometimes Becky gets really worried because it doesn't seem like there's going to be enough. But I think I've said many times to Becky, do we trust God or don't we? If God has a mission for this church, He will keep it going. Now, He will keep it going not by magic, but through us, through our bringing other people in, through the work that we do in the church. If we see that what's happening is worthwhile, we are willing to support it. When we give to the church, we're not paying to come to church. We're not doing something that's a ticket to heaven. You don't have to buy so much to get in. What we are doing is we say, God, I trust you. Everything I have is from you, and I am grateful. I am giving some of that back. Now, I do recommend, as you're on your spiritual journey, to think about that, to have that conversation within your household about what is a place to start. Now, if you want to tithe, by all means, tithe. I think that's great. There are lots of churches where they have talked about tithing so much that they move beyond that. They call it second mile giving, that you go the extra mile. We're not going to talk about that. But if tithing seems like it's a place where you're at, by all means. But if you're not ready to do 10%, think about 1%. Think about figuring what 1% of your income is. Could you dedicate that 1% and say, God, I trust you? Now, I can tell you, it's typical when people stand up and talk about money in the church. Somebody gets up and makes a testimonial and they say, well, I started to tithe, and then my whole universe turned right, and I won the lottery, and I was set for life. I'm not going to tell you that. Right? I am going to tell you that in my personal experience, that when I let go of the control, thinking that if I didn't keep control of all of that money, that I wouldn't have enough. When I let go of that and said, okay, God, I trust you. Trust is something that you can't see, right? It's like falling backwards and trusting somebody will catch you. I trust you, God. I trust you to help us. When we did that, it made a difference. Now, it's not like we made more money. We certainly didn't win the lottery. But when you put that worry in God's hands, He'll hold it for you. And He will help you to not worry about money. And that is a huge gift. That is a huge gift. I spent a lot of years of our married life worrying about money because we didn't have enough. When I trusted God, it made a difference. And so I'm talking about money here not because I think everybody should give more. Certainly not because I think everybody should give less. But I do think that it's important for me to say from here that our relationship with God is so big and so inclusive that it's big enough to hold every conversation, even the hard ones. And talking about money is hard. So when we think about the gifts that God has given us and the gratitude that we have for that, it's like any gratitude, it overflows out of us, and it makes us want to do more. It makes us want to give that love back in ways that we can show. Now, we can show love in lots of ways, and certainly giving our gifts to God through the church is not limited to our money. When you made your baptismal vows, you agreed to, and when you joined the church, you agreed to support the church with your presence, your prayers, your gifts, and your service. And so the work that we do here to keep the place running, our presence here as part of the work that's going on in our worship, along with our money, those are all parts of that. And so when we think about if we treat our lives like we're holding on for dear life, in any sense, we are cutting ourselves off from that peace that passes all understanding that God promises us. And so I encourage you to turn over your worries and your fears about money, to take that as a part of your path towards discipleship, towards a deeper discipleship, that you get on the path at whatever place you're ready to get on, and that you move closer and closer to God. Because that's where we find that rest, that comfort, that freedom from fear, that keeping control of everything ourselves gives us. We live under the illusion that we are in control. We really aren't in control of a lot. And so when we let God be in control, it makes a huge difference in our lives. And that's what that path of discipleship is about. That path is about moving closer to God, closer to a relationship with God. That is a two-way relationship, not just a shake your hand, know your name relationship. And so I leave you with that thought. Take your worries to God and open your hearts. That generosity that path of discipleship calls will help free you to be closer to God. Amen.